You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Hey, this is Dika Monford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
Yo, this is Terrence Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And welcome to the Snob OS show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back, everybody, to this week's show. We definitely want to take a quick moment to thank you for tuning in and allowing us to bring you this content and for your continued support. If you want to get in on a little bit of exclusive content and have the ability to watch the show live, you can head on over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/snoboscast, to get all of those details. And with that, we are going to go ahead and jump into this week's show. We're going to kick it off with the Lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. And boy, do we have a lot of all things Apple to talk about. This week, we are only the third day to this week, and we have had several new Apple products unveilings. Did it happen in an Apple event? Nope, it did not. It happened in a press release and with new products being up in the store for you to purchase. We're going to kick it off with the iPad and iPad Air. Just on Monday, these two new products were announced, and Tim Cook did last week tease that something was coming that was related to Air. So we got a new iPad Air. A couple of things to keep in mind about the Air. It has the M3 chip. It does include Apple Intelligence. It comes in both the 11 and 13-inch model sizes. We got some colors, space gray, which is typical. We also have a blue, a purple, and a starlight. And I think probably one of the other things that people are really talking about is not only did we get the new iPad Air, but we got a new accessory, a new Magic Keyboard. So this Air, it honestly doesn't have, it's not one of those, revolutionary, super, giving you something completely new. It's a new year. I don't think we've had an iPad Air refresh. I don't think we had one last year. I think we had the one the year before. And so they are dropping this new model. Did you see any of this drop on the timeline? I'm not sure. I know you were kind of off social media, well, non-Black social media, but did you get a chance to take a look and see anything about the new iPad Air?
Nothing special. It does what previous iPads Airs before it. I don't even think the 13-inch is a newer model for the iPad Air. Don't they have a 13-inch iPad Air prior to this? Or
Yeah.
is this the first time? Okay, yeah. So the only thing that I see is like new and exciting, which really ain't all that exciting, is this new Magic Keyboard that you mentioned that has a 14 key function row and a larger trackpad. So what that means is instead of on the physical keyboard having to hit the function key and hit 1, 2, 3, 4, and then same thing with the exclamation at $, $, things like that, that's got its own row dedicated to some of those. So you've got another row to where you're not shift this to turn up the brightness or shift this to turn down the volume. You've got a volume row, you've got a number row that has the, the asterisk and the percentages and things like that. And then you got the numbers. So thought that was interesting. Other than that, I mean, this is what to be expected from an iPad Air. It has the M3 chip, which I'm assuming they put that in there instead of putting the M4 chip that's in the iPad Pros.
Yep.
Yeah. So they did a good job of putting this at a good price point with enough of differentiator, so you're not really confused about which one you want to buy.
Right, because I think the last iPad Air, I think it had the M1 chip. So a lot of the comparisons for the Air are talking about the improvements that you get with the upgrade of the chip. So it's one of those things. Like I said when we talked about the iPhone 16e, if you're not in the market, then this probably won't be for you. But if you're in the market for an upgrade, this will definitely be a great purchase for you. So it is available for pre-order right now. So if you're listening, you can go on over to apple.com or go to the Apple Store app on your phone and get that pre-order. They will be available on the 12th, which will be next week, and the price point starts at $599. Next up is the iPad 11. Now, we talked about not a whole lot being changed with the iPad Air. There's even less being changed with the new iPad 11. It doesn't include Apple Intelligence, so there's that. It does get a bit of a chip upgrade. It's going from the A14 to an A16 chip. The things that it does include, typically the storage size starts at about 64 gigabytes. It's doubling the start of the storage, which will now begin at 128 gigabytes of storage. And colors, same colors, silver, blue, pink, and yellow. Again, it is available for pre-order right now. Same place as you buy all your other Apple products if you're buying them directly from Apple. And they are available starting on the 12th as well. Again, starting price point is going to get you at $349. I believe if you get the educational credit, I think all these prices are $100 lower. So if you get the education version, this will start at $249 for the iPad 11, and it'll start at $499 for the iPad Air. I guess before we get any further, I guess does any of this really, I guess, shock you about how this is being announced, it's being released, especially with what the offering actually is for the new iPads?
Do you mean is it worth? Is it worth? Well, no, I mean that's not the worth it. Do you think they are? You asking? Do you think they should stick with this press release, or do you think that they should try to get the iPad back into this announcement type thing, similar to how they roll out iPhones? Is that what you're asking, or
No,
are you
what I'm
asking is it is it worth the money to upgrade?
Right. So it's one of those things where I think we're going to talk a little bit later after we go through the products about, the whole event versus press release. But the fact that these products don't seem like they are that huge of a change.
Oh, got it.
The way
Got
they
it.
kind of gone about saying, hey, we got this new stuff, with it being, quite frankly, minimal changes to these new products from the previous version.
Apple needs to do it more, to be honest. I think they need to trying or tricking us into believing that this thing that they are announcing is unlike anything we've ever seen before. Because it's getting to the point to where it is exactly like we've seen before, with the exception of a few tweaks, which is fine. I think that's perfectly okay for Apple to come out with an iPad Air and an iPad regular that is an improvement from last year or last generation's version. But you don't have to make a big hoopla about it. iPads are synonymous with tablets. They've accomplished that. When people think of a tablet, they don't think of a Samsung. They don't think of an Amazon. You think of an iPad. So you won. You won that one. Now it's just like, all right, well, just every 2 years or every other year, however, whatever the generation cycle is for iPads, just keep making things a little bit better. Like this, like for instance, with this regular iPad, they increase the storage. People need more than 64 gigs of storage out the jump. And just buying iCloud storage ain't good enough, because even iCloud storage is not the same as onboard hardware storage. Trying to sync and upload and download and make sure your iCloud drive is synced. You ain't trying to do all that. If I take a picture or I record a video, I want to save it on my iPad, and you can't do that with 64 gigs. So jumping up to 128 gigs is a welcomed, addition to this year. Same thing with the keyboard, the Magic Keyboard. That's an improvement. Trackpad's bigger. It's got another row for those people who feel like they want to be more productive. You've got that option now when you didn't have that in previous generations, right?
Right.
I think they should do it for more. I hate to say it, but even with the iPhone, if Apple slowed down a little bit and didn't feel that pressure to announce or figure out a way to announce the next iPhone and make it unlike anything you've ever seen, man, take that pressure off of you and say, do the event now. Don't press release the iPhone, but just do the release and say, hey, we've got another button, or we've got reverse charging. But other than that, expect the same greatness that you would from every iPhone, and just
do the splashy video that shows it like in the different angles and on the curves, and say, hey, this is what we have. I feel you on that. All right. So so this all happened on Monday when they did the iPad press release of the new products. Today is Wednesday, the day that we record, and Apple has dropped some more products. And we will start with the new M4 MacBook Air. So the biggest thing I think for the MacBook Air is that it's the price. Everybody is all about the price. For this new device, straight out the box, they've dropped the base price by $100 for the new iPad Air. So when you look at this price, it's going to be $100 less than what you paid for the previous MacBook Air. It does come in a splashy new color, this sky blue kind of color, similar to the blue that's kind of like in the new iPad, in the iPad Air. Comes with the M4 chip. It has a new 12 megapixel center stage camera. I think a lot of people, again, talking about what people need for this new iPad Air, you can connect up to two 6K external displays along with the built-in display at the same time. So you can basically have two, what's
external displays?
What's the Apple one? The
Studio?
The Studio display. Completely blanked. Basically having two of those in addition to being able to use a screen, and having that capability on something as thin as an Air, I think that's probably one of the highlights, in addition to the price point dropping by $100. Again, you can pre-order these now, available on the 12th as well. And again, the starting price is now $999 for the new MacBook Airs. Any thoughts? Again, not a whole lot of changes.
Not a whole lot of changes. It just seems like all the stuff that Apple announces during the iPhone event in September or October, those changes or those new things are making their way into other devices. So Apple Intelligence is making its way into Airs and iPads and things of that nature. So I think
getting the new chips.
This is new chips. They announce new chips, and then those kind of follow along and find themselves into other devices. With this MacBook Air, it's same thing as the other ones, is what we expect in Apple. They got a new color. They've got that front camera, which I think it was 12 megapixels the last time.
Yes, 12. Remember.
Yeah. But they've also got a 13 and a 15 inch. They had a 15 inch last time as well. So again, I was concerned that looking at this 13 or 15-inch MacBook Air, I would be like, man, if I was in the market for a MacBook period, I wouldn't even buy a MacBook Pro. I would buy a MacBook Air, get it to 15-inch, deck it out with 32 gigs of RAM and terabyte of hard drive. And it's no different than my MacBook Pro, with the exception of my MacBook Pro is a 16-inch screen, so it's a little bit bigger, and it's got the ports. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier this week, and he was looking for a MacBook for his daughter, and he was like, well, which one? They all sound the same. And I thought about it for a minute. I was like, no, they kind of are. But the MacBook Pro has the HDMI port. It's got the SD slot, and it's got the 3 USB-C ports. So, his daughter is, she's dabbling into music, so he's like, well, which one should I get? And I was like, well, if she's dabbling into the music, the DJs and the music producers, those guys get the MacBook Pros because they need to hook all their equipment up to it, the turntables, mixers, speakers, all the things that they hook up to it. Right. So they would get a MacBook Pro just for that reason. If they didn't have any equipment to hook up to, and they may just dabble a little bit there, get the MacBook Air, but just know that you're going to have to buy a dongle, in order to connect anything to it past the one USB-C drive. So if you're connecting a monitor, now you're also, that takes up the one USB-C drive. You can try to daisy chain it together, but
you're going to lose performance on that.
You're going to have to buy a dongle. So if you don't care about her having a small, thin laptop that you can load up, I told him don't get anything less than an M2 processor, because the M2s are the first ones that do the multiple displays. Now they can't do a multiple 6K display like this new MacBook Air, but M1 processor, you can't do dual displays. So I told him at least get that, load it up with RAM, load it up with storage. You can just know you have to buy a dongle and you'll be good. So all that to say, all around the world to say, that's pretty much the only difference I can think of, with the exception of the size, for the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro. Outside of size, outside of ports, everything else is about the same.
Yeah. And it's really funny that you say that. It's like the distance between all of these devices. I mean, even when you think about, say, like an iPad Pro, the distance between these devices are really shrinking. And it's one of those things where I don't know if Apple is really trying to get to the point where it's just like, you just really need one of these to kind of, do your thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely not enticing anybody anymore to upgrade their already good device, right? Yeah. If you've got an M1 or got an M2, now the M3s and the M4s are out. If you're not in the market and you don't really need one, ain't really no reason for you to get one. When before, Apple could coax you out your money, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they're coaxing anybody out their money anymore, especially, Apple fans like us,
Right.
I'm finding it harder and harder and harder to justify
purchases.
My purchases. Yeah. It's just got to be like, I want it. There's no, I can't think of, to help me do this.
I need it.
Help me do
helps
that.
me do this better.
It's just
it's out of
Apple
sheer desire.
Right. And Apple is just announcing products to where when you find yourself in the Apple store or you find yourself online looking for a computer, you know that Apple's got the latest and greatest. You ain't got to necessarily wait, because they're all so close together and they're announcing them at every year, every other year clip. So if you're in the market, like you said at the top, these are great if you're in the market. If you ain't in the market, these ain't nothing to
write home about.
Unless somebody else is paying for it.
Right. Just bypass it and keep going. The last thing that was announced today was a new Mac Studio. And along with the new Mac Studio, they announced a new chip, an M3 Ultra. Now, we don't have many Ultra chips in the Apple Silicon ecosystem, but
Family.
the M3 Ultra is really based on the specs. It's showing out a little bit. So key things to keep in mind: the Mac Studio, the new Mac Studio, comes in 2 chip varieties: the M4 Max and the M3 Ultra. The storage is going to start at 512 gigabytes and is configurable up to 18 terabytes. That 18 terabytes is for the M3 Ultra. I think for the
which
M4,
is the M3 Ultra better than the M3 Max?
yes,
or is it?
It's better. It's better
I'm
than
sorry,
the
I'm
M4
sorry.
Max.
That's what I was going. Yeah, I had to fix myself. The M3 Ultra is better than the M4 Max because, like you
Correct.
mentioned, you can put 18 terabytes on this joint, and you can put 512 gigabytes of RAM. That's crazy.
That's
crazy.
insane. It's nuts. But you got to pay for it. So the Mac Studio Ultra, the Mac Studio with the M4 Max chip starts at about $2,000. With the M3 Ultra, it starts at $4,000. So, you're paying for the goodness, but
power.
But the pure specs on this, especially on the M3 Ultra, is one of those things where it's like, holy crap. You get up to a 32 core CPU, up to 80 core GPU. So that's your graphical processing. And again, 32 core neural engine. This thing, I don't know, people can probably buy one of these Mac Studios, one of these with these M3 Ultra chips, and the amount of data, you could probably run your own data center, a small one relatively, off this one. And I know before on the previous chip, when these were announced, people were getting like 3 or 4 of these Mac Studios and like daisy chain them together. And they are running like these complex AI algorithms. They're training all this data on these. And now with just one of these M3 Ultra Mac Studios, man, if you got $4,000 to spare, if you got $4,000 laying around, it's going to give you some this is a pretty powerful device. The RAM on this thing is 96 gigabits for the M3 Ultra.
Yeah, that's one thing Apple, people don't give Apple too much credit for, is holding on to their desktop machines. Every other computer, with the exception of a gaming PC, everything else is laptop, which for some people, it may work. For me, it doesn't work because I move to different locations of the house and I'm actually doing serious work and not necessarily just goofing off on the internet, right? But if I had a dedicated 100% office and I didn't need a laptop, I would get a studio simply because my 16-inch M4 MacBook Pro that I'm using now, it costs with tax about $3,000 after it's all said and done. This thing right here, like you said, you can beef it up to what?
And a correction,
4,
you can beef it up to. You can the terabytes. It's 16, not 18. So I want to make sure I correct that before I forget. Okay. It's up to configurable up to 16 terabytes, not 18, 16. Yep. But yeah, it's starting at 4. It's starting at 4,000. Yeah.
That's $1,000 more than my MacBook Pro, and it does so much more based on the storage, based on the RAM. So it's again giving Apple credit for the fact that they have still held on to and still pumping out good desktops when I can't think of a decent anything. Google, what is it? What's Google's online software? Google Chrome OS, Windows machine. Yeah. The only desktops that compare to this are the gaming ones that you have to spend, about this much if not a little bit more, but you got to build it.
Yeah.
This already comes in a cute little box.
Open it up, and it's a tiny little box. It's not this huge thing either. Another thing, display support. So for the M4 Max, simultaneous support for up to 5 displays. You can get up to 4 displays with 6K resolution on these things. And this is over a Thunderbolt connection. So it says you can get up to 4 display with 6K resolution at 60 hertz over Thunderbolt, and 1 display of 4K resolution at 144 hertz over HDMI. But to be able to have 5 displays simultaneously on this one itty bitty box is insane. For the Ultra, the M3 Ultra, it supports up to 8 displays. 8 displays up to 6K resolution at 60 hertz, or 4K resolution up to 144 hertz, and 4 displays up to 8K resolution. It's crazy. You can plug up 4 8K resolution displays on this one itty bitty box. So
yeah, this is gonna be for your developers or maybe even
power users. I'm thinking
full feature length movie editors.
That's what I'm thinking.
Captain America.
Yeah, I can't even really think of a developer who would need this much power just out of sheer, geeking out. Like, I want to max it out. I want to have all this stuff. But I'm thinking this is like movie editing, animation, this type of stuff. And again, running some data centers off a couple of these things as well. So it'll be
interesting as a side note. It'll be interesting to see where we as a society get power from in order to power these computers, and more recently, AI. I was listening to somebody talk about it, and again, I can't verify this, but he was saying something to the effect of, anytime you ask ChatGPT a question or a prompt or a query, just one, it is the amount of power it needs for that is equal to turning on a light with a single light bulb for I think he said 20 minutes or something like that, which me doing one prompt don't sound like a lot. But think of all the prompts I do, think of all the prompts Nika does, think all of the AI queries, regardless if it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Maud or Pod or whatever the name of it is. Think of all those people asking Apple or AI, artificial intelligence, their queries. And think of all the light bulbs that the power that's going to require. We are going to run into a power issue very, very soon. And hopefully we figure it out, because these smartphones are powerful. These computers are powerful. These AI compute, language model, super giga triple fat goose that's going to take a lot of power. I hope we can find it. We're in trouble.
I don't know where it's going to come from. I have no idea where it's going to come from.
Well, people are talking about nuclear power.
Yeah.
They were going to bring back nuclear power plants just to power our smartphones.
Remember, we talked about this a couple of months ago, because I think it was it Meta or Google or somebody, they were talking about opening back up the thought and the process of nuclear power. And I think I was like, this can get a little bit hanky. We all know how nuclear power can go, but at this point, it's really not a choice right now. It's going to have to be something. It's going to have to be something at that level to be able to power phones, tablets. Just think of the devices that you have in your house at any time. You can say,
cars.
if I'm not at my laptop, I'm on my iPad, and it's like, oh, well, I have to ask, I want to find something out, and you go to query it. So think of every person having multiple devices to be able to run these queries. Then this is just on the personal level. But then when you think about it at a corporate level, the amount of power, it's That's a lot. It's a lot.
Yep.
So,
Hopefully we can figure it out and not resort to something super dangerous just because it's required or it's a
yeah.
necessity.
Yeah.
I want my smartphone, but I want my ears too.
Right. I don't want a third one.
Right. Or to melt off.
Right. Or you can't go outside. You have to have on hazmat suits because we've
Right.
scorched the earth so much that, it's not safe to go outside into the natural air. Yeah. So just this week alone, we've gotten 4 new products from Apple. A couple of weeks ago, we got a new iPhone 16e. So within the last 2 weeks, we have 5 new Apple products. We are already into the month of March. So my question to you, Brother Tech, is, do you think there's going to be a spring 2025 Apple event?
Unless they announce some new technology with the Apple Watch, probably not. I don't see them announcing any AirPods anytime soon. I think Apple, after this, is hard at work on iOS 18.4 before WWDC, where they announce, I think it'll be iOS 19 by then.
19? Yep.
Yeah, so I think they're reserving everything in the tank for WWDC and what's left of iOS 18. So to answer your question, no, I don't think there'll be another spring event where they announce anything new.
So likely new software in June, and then new iPhone, maybe new AirPods or watch in September.
Yeah. And they'll just announce the software in June. They ain't gonna release it unless they, public beta type or developer
Right.
beta or public beta type stuff.
Right. So yeah, I wonder if this is the new wave for Apple to basically just have WWDC and one Apple event per year. I guess
One
we'll see
official
how
Apple
this
event.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then everything else is just press release.
Press release and a
Until
video.
Apple finally does what I tell them to do and buys Sonos. I'm still keeping that one.
Keeping that one
Just
in
do
your
it.
back
Just go ahead and
pocket.
buy it.
All right, that is going to a wrap of the lowdown. Let's head on over into second string where we talk all other tech. So I saw this article on Twitter, and it triggered something in me because I actually experienced this over the weekend. If you were a snobist, you'd get a little bit more background onto where this is all coming from. But let's jump into it. So Uber users in Austin are now being able to be matched with Waymo robotaxis. So if you're not familiar with Waymo, Waymo is essentially a driverless car, driverless Uber without a physical person in the vehicle
autonomous.
driving the car. 100% autonomous. And they are now bringing this to Austin. So you'll be able to go into the Uber app, and instead of being matched with a person, you have the option of being matched with a Waymo robotaxi. You can still, again, this isn't a replacement for the standard Uber driver. This is just in addition to, and you actually have you can say, no, I don't want Waymo. Give me a person, or you can say, hey, I'll take a Waymo. And both of these features, both of these options, being driver or driverless, they will be the same price. So you won't see a price difference. Again, Waymo and Uber, you could probably think that there was some contention there. They used to be rivals, but now I guess the tides have turned a bit, and feelings have softened, and they have decided to have this collaboration. It started in Phoenix back in October of 2023. And I say this kind of hit home with me a little bit. I was on vacation last week and part of this week in the Phoenix area. And when I was booking my Uber to take me back to the airport, it popped up and said, hey, do you want to take a Waymo instead? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Sure. Why not? I'll give it a try.
Okay.
Because one thing that I noticed in Phoenix, Scottsdale, that, kind of metro area, every fifth car is a Waymo.
Mm-hmm.
Waymos are very prevalent. You see them everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of the culture in the Phoenix area. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I was booking the Uber and they were like, "Hey," it literally said it was searching for a driver and it says, "We can give you an upgrade if you want to try a Waymo driver." And I was thinking, I used to write software for these types of things, so I might as well hop in and see what the competitor has to offer. So typically with Waymo, they have their own app. And in order to get in the vehicle, you have to put your phone up to the Waymo and, it gives you a code so that you can get in the vehicle and then you hop in. It takes you wherever you're trying to go. You can control things like the temperature in the car, the music, all those things. And so the same is with Uber. Instead of using the Waymo app, you use the Uber app to unlock the vehicle and to basically confirm that you are the actual driver. I mean, that rider in this vehicle. So under this arrangement, this collaboration that Uber and Waymo has, Waymo is responsible for vehicle testing, roadside assistance, and certain aspects of rider support. Uber manages the fleet services such as vehicle cleaning, maintenance, inspection, charging, depot operations, and that is done through a company called Move Cars, which was rebranded to Avimo. I don't know, whatever. So it's, Uber and Waymo have this collaboration, and they basically, if you look at the different things they handle, kind of took, split it down the middle. Waymo handles these things, Uber handles these other things. So it's in Austin. I think I read somewhere that it's coming to Atlanta soon. I think we don't have a Waymo presence yet, but I did remember reading somewhere that Waymo is coming to Atlanta. And so it only makes sense that Waymo Uber collaboration is coming to Atlanta as well. So if you were booking an Uber, would you take a Waymo?
If I was by myself, yes. If I was with my wife or my kids, absolutely not. And that's not because I am concerned for their danger. It's just they ain't getting in no autonomous vehicle, so we ain't getting in no autonomous vehicle. But if I was alone, I would try it. I think the reason why, well, let me speculate on the reason why Uber and Waymo are getting together.
Okay.
Uber could not figure out how to do autonomous driving by itself. They had a fatal car crash. They had a bunch of lawsuits. In addition to that, which is what I think the real reason is, Lyft and Uber drivers are still fighting tooth and nail to become Uber and Lyft employees.
Mm-hmm.
If they are employees, they are entitled to health insurance, they're entitled to vacations, they're entitled
All the
to sick
benefits.
days, family leave, FMLA, all the benefits
HSA,
of a
all that
regular
stuff.
job.
Yeah.
All that, 401k, everything. Uber has been fighting against
To keep
this
them independent contractors.
forever. To keep them independent contractors, because all they want to be is quote unquote the marketplace, air quotes, where people connect riders with drivers, right? That's all Uber wants to be, because they know if they turn them contractors over to employees, that's a whole lot extra overhead that they don't want to deal with. And then Uber lays off. And then now, so to avoid all of that, Uber is like, you know what? My enemy is now my friend. And since Waymo has the leg up as far as autonomous driving, they're like, hey, remember those lawsuits? We'll just clear all that out. Let's just do this partnership. Not because it's the best thing for Waymo, which it probably is, but it's probably better for Uber because they can't get their autonomous vehicles right. And they need something to in place of or to totally replace actual
Human
drivers.
Yeah. And I will say, yes, when you go to book through Uber, the Waymo, it says in the, when you click on the little question mark, it does say that the service is not available in all areas. So it's one of those things where likely large cities, likely places that have good transportation systems,
Sure.
because again, this is a driverless person, and it is a little bit weird to kind of see. Again, like I said, almost every fifth car was a Waymo. You just see these cars, the steering wheel spinning, and nobody in the car. It's just out there just doing its thing. It is a little bit kind of off-putting, but it is one of those things where it's proven to work. It's in California, it's in Austin, it's in Arizona, and it's working. So
the rollout is going to be slow though, because
absolutely.
what I am again speculating is you have to have the local cities buy-in in order to roll out autonomous driving on city streets. Yeah. There are some cities whose infrastructure is trash.
Yeah.
So they ain't fixing up their infrastructure just for regular residents and for regular population.
For people who pay taxes for it.
For people who pay taxes for it. They're not about to spend all these millions and billions of dollars so we can have a fleet of driverless cars. So all that to say, Waymo is going to have to do a lot. They're going to have to spend a lot in order to get into more cities because of all the things that I just mentioned.
Right. So if you get a chance and if you're interested, definitely hop into your Waymo. It's an experience. All right, let's head on over to For the Culture, where we talk about what's going on in the world around us. Again, I mentioned I've been a little bit out of the loop, and I was really struggling to find something to talk about for the Culture. But I did see this I actually saw the person's tweet, and I was like, and I started to kind of read through the comments, and it gave me a kind of a cause for pause, because I was like, you know what, this really is true. And so what I'm calling, this particular article is, if you're Black, you can't be too good. And this is surrounding the NFL draft that is coming up pretty soon. And one of the hot prospects for one of the top picks is quarterback Shedeur Sanders, who is the son of famed quarterback and a baseball player, Deion Sanders. So this kid has been getting some flack lately. And again, they are doing the combine where these young men go and they talk to all these coaches. They interview with the teams. They are running drills. They're basically kind of showing off what they can do. And a part of this whole process is them giving interviews with the press, in addition to interviews with people who would hire them, meaning other teams. And this reporter, Josina Anderson, posted on Twitter, and she said, "I'm disappointed to hear that quarterbacks coach from a team drafting in the top 10 and the top 7 referred to Shedeur Sanders as coming off as, quote, brash and arrogant in his team interview and making his assessment known to a number of people per source." And the person was, what did I say? Josina Anderson. She said she wasn't going to name the team the team specifically, to kind of, keep it, I guess, kind of in-house. And it's one of those things where, she made a pretty long post, but that's kind of the gist of it. Is they're saying that he's brash and arrogant. And this particular quarterback coach said he had issues with, quote, the culture of athletes who have broad fame and financial success before entering the NFL. And I bring this up because Shedeur Sanders is in a unique situation, because this young man has been rich his whole life. His father was not only a professional football player, a very good one, I might add, but he was also a professional baseball player. So this young man didn't grow up in the typical experience of a Black kid going to college, playing football, going to the NFL, having the whole struggle story. And, I had to come from the hood and all these things that they usually assume when you talk about Black athletes. You don't get the same type of comment around white athletes. You don't hear this coming from when Archie Manning, when both Peyton and Eli were coming into the league. They had similar, types of backgrounds. And again, Shedeur is typically Black. They like to label Black quarterbacks as running quarterbacks. Shedeur is a pocket passer. He is a purist type of quarterback. And so it leads me to believe that, some of these coaches have their preconceived notions, their biases, their prejudices, or whatever the case may be. And when a young man that comes off to them as brash and arrogant, they see that as a negative rather than it being confidence, knowing that I've had the best opportunities. My dad is a coach. I've had the best coaching that you can get. I'm already famous. I'm already wealthy. Even without football, I'd still be wealthy. I'd still be, a notable person. Coming to the league isn't going to necessarily, elevate my life so far the stratosphere of what I already know. And it just made me wonder and made me think that for Black athletes, the burden for, being confident in who you are. You saw it with Serena Williams and Venus Williams, particularly with Venus, because she was talking to one of the reporters and she was saying that she was confident she could beat the person. And the guy was just, he just seemed to be so off-put. Like, what gives you that confidence? What makes you say that? Not seeing that this young girl was extremely talented. So it's one of those things where how we have to, and when I say we, I'm talking Black people in general, have to prepare, our kids to go into some of these environments, because things that would ordinarily be taken as a positive are seen as a negative. When this Shedeur, he, was talking to they gave him 2 minutes. They told him he only had 2 minutes. He talked to the press for 10 minutes. And then he went around and shook the hand of each of the people that were interviewing him. But they're saying that he's brash and arrogant when he's a very charming young man, attractive, very personable. And I think if he wasn't Black, he would be, there would be no question that he would go number 1 in the draft. And some people are saying that, because I was reading the comments, some people are saying, they're trying to do this to humble him because he already has so much. So he needs to be humbled in this weird way. And, they're trying to drop, where he goes in the draft, because, the higher you go, the more money you make. So it's just one of those things where it's really disheartening, and it's really sad that when you do come from the best possible situation, you still get dinged as if you're not.
So I don't think it's a bad thing. And let me explain. The combine, NFL combine, is nothing but a meat market. It reminds me, and other people said it and I've agreed with it, it reminds me of like the slave trade.
Yeah.
To where they brought up the bucks and and they opened their mouth and they showed their teeth and they made them turn around and they made them do all this stuff, right? And then all the potential slave masters would bid on them or whatever the case may be, right? Mm-hmm. Fast forward to 2024, you've got the NFL scouting combine, right? Mm-hmm. To where they're doing the same thing. Now, in addition to that, they're doing this whole press and interview I don't know what is the purpose behind those, but
I think it's see how marketable they are.
My ultimate point is they are looking for players who they themselves can mold. If you come to the Steelers, the Ravens, whatever the case may be, they want you to be able to they want you to adopt their culture, right? Mm-hmm. And prior to now, we've had no choice. We've had to play the game in order to get in the league. And what the league would do, owners, scouts, reporters, coaches, whoever's a part of the league, they wanted to see how moldable you can be, so then you can adopt their culture. The problem with that is Shedeur Sanders is already molded. He was molded by his father, who played in the league, who was a superstar in the league. So here comes Shedeur Sanders, and not necessarily humble, but they would prefer somebody who did not have their own light already, right? But that's becoming few and far between, because
in the age of NIL.
you've got other, right, NIL. These players don't need the NFL as much as they used to. So they don't have to come to the combine. They don't have to answer questions, because again, you can't convince me that the combine and these mock interviews is NFL teams preparing you for the NFL as a player. They don't care. If you are good, and you are talented, they are going to take you. So why I got to jump through all these dumb hoops? Because they're dumb. And but the NFL, the coaches, the scouts, they don't want to lose control, because what they've had is control. You bring a player in, you can control. I say mold, but think of it as more control. You can't control. These kids nowadays are fully realized social. Because of social media, I don't need to go on ESPN. I can start a podcast. I can go on TikTok and show you how astute or interview ready I am. I don't got to go to no combine. And what's happening is NFL is losing control, and they don't like it. Especially with the black kids. They don't like it that these kids are coming in on par, if not better. Because you think of Shedeur Sanders, his father's Deion Sanders. Enough said.
Prime time.
Versus some other, I hate to say it, white player who works hard, who is talented, who is ready for the NBA. I mean, the NFL. They used to be the pick of the litter. Now, not so much. Now you got these players that are superstars already coming into the NFL. They're superstars on top of being talented, because you can't, as much as they try, they cannot.
And already with money.
Right. They can't dock their talent, because Shedeur Sanders is talented. Like you mentioned, he is traditional white boy quarterback talented, because he's a pocket passer.
He's a pocket passer. They can't deal with it.
The ding that they will put on black quarterbacks is, well, he can't throw the ball. He can run. He's super athletic. He can't do that. Now here they come. Now they pocket passing. Now you got,
you changing the game on me.
Right. Before that, you got Lamar Alexander for the Ravens. He was a runner, and it was like, oh, now he can sit back and throw the ball too. So now it's like they are grasping at straws for ways to remain in control. Yeah. And you're not going to be able to do it, because these young kids, they figured it out. And it's like, what I need this dumb combine for, when I can go on TikTok, or I can, do my own drills. Like you said in the story, he waited until his college pro day, where his father is the coach, and did his own little pro day drills or whatever. Who wouldn't do that? I don't understand why, when they do it,
it's okay.
It's just that's just how it's done. But when we do it, it's nepotism.
Yeah.
So what? Why? Who?
That's the goal. To have nepotism.
Who in their right mind has a father who is a prime time, literal
superstar,
prime time superstar, and you'd be
two
like,
sports.
Nah, yeah, and be like, nah, I'm gonna go to the regular NFL combine.
Don't use the advantages that you have. No, we want the other ones to use their advantage, but don't use your advantage. Crazy, get out of here.
That's just stupid. They are grasping at straws to try to remain in control.
Yeah,
because they've realized that these kids have figured it out, and we don't need you. Now, I want to be in the league, but I'm gonna be in the league on my own terms. I'm not just going to acquiesce to anything and everything you say, and just because or whatever. I ain't got to do all that. I'm Shedeur Sanders.
Doing it the
I'm
old
going
way.
to the NFL, and I'm gonna be the number one pick, regardless of what you say. So it don't really matter.
Don't really matter. And they hate it. But
They can't stand it.
as always, definitely good luck to all of these. I say kids, but they're young men, but basically they're babies. Still, when they go into this, and as always, I just hope that they have the best possible people around them when it comes to agents and lawyers and managers and all these things, because when you aren't aware, you can get easily taken advantage of. But I think that's one of the differences when it comes to these kids now. They are very aware of the money aspect, the manager aspect, and they're fully in control. So that's definitely one of the positives. So we will all be watching. Well, I know I will be watching to see how the draft shakes out. And with that being said, we are going to head over to the hookup for our tech tip of the week.
All right. So Apple has finally came out with a support site that actually shows you or gives you the instructions on how to clean your AirPods. It don't matter if it's AirPods 3 or 4, doesn't matter if it's AirPods Max, whichever one you have, they have created this website to where they have videos, they've got all of the products that you may need. And then in addition to that, they have partnered with Belkin to offer a AirPods cleaning kit that you can buy off of Apple's website for $13. So it's not as expensive as I thought it was going to be. But if you want to buy a Belkin AirPods cleaning kit, you can do so from Apple. But in addition to that, I think the more important thing is they've got descriptions, they've got pictures, they've got a very well thought out website, including tips to avoid skin irritation for the AirPods, when before it was kind of like, oh, here's some AirPods, and then everybody figure out how to do it. Apple, with this new feature with the AirPods, I'm hoping this extends to firmware, to where Apple actually tells you what's included in this firmware update, when prior to now, ongoing from now, you don't know really what's in there. So by Apple starting or creating this how to clean your AirPods website, maybe the AirPods will get a little bit more love now, because they are the de facto AirPods for Apple users and beyond. So that's my tip for the week. If you're ever interested or curious as to how to clean your AirPods the quote unquote Apple way, now they have a website for it.
Yep. And I will say, they say use micellar water. That's a very good product. I use it every day to clean my face before I actually clean my face. So glad to see that. Right. That's going to wrap up the show for this week. We definitely want to thank you for tuning in. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
Sure. You can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva everywhere. Again, to connect, to comment, to share, to support our show, head on over to our website, snobblewestcast.com, to get all of the details. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.